Welcome, Weekend Warriors, to the Week 14 edition of the show. The Content King returns for his second podcast in 2 days. Yes, we had a special guest interview with Kevin yesterday, and we went over the standings and some playoff predictions and kind of got to know what he thinks, and I gave a little bit of my opinion. We also got an NFL pick from Kevin. Be interesting to see if he has some better luck than some other of the guests on the show giving picks. So we're back because I got to give my predictions. And I'll tell you what, you should be all ears right now because the Content King, the commish, is blazing hot. I cannot lay it on thick enough. I had a horrible start to the season. At one point I was 5-11, then I was 7-13 in my NFL picks, and I was just embarrassing on the show. Everybody was fading me. I have reeled off 6 winners in a row. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. I'm going for my 6th Thursday night pick in a row right now. 6 in a row, unheard of, truthfully. And I'm only 13-13 on the season because of how bad I started. But you should be on this train, riding it. And I'm going to give a sneak peek in a minute. But I also want to tell you that my Turnersville Sportsbook record has been really good. If Brett would have lost last week to Jake, which was very close, Jake was up going into Monday Night Football, and Diggs had to outscore Damian Harris. Actually, even if Harris outscored Diggs by a couple points, Jake was still good. The weather had other plans, and Brett was able to prevail. So I was 4-1. I would have been 5-0 had Jake pulled it out. So I'm 39-26 on the season. I'll do a quick recap. Valone over Chris, that was correct. Terry over Ott, that was correct. Kevin over Pearson, that was correct. Myself over my dad, that was correct. Jake over Brett, incorrect as we mentioned. So 4-1 on the week. The high score of the week was Kevin himself. His second high score of the week on the season. It brings him to a $50 prize. So my pick, and listen, this is not, I cannot stress this enough, that this is not a homer pick. I'm wearing a Vikings jersey. I am a Vikings fan. The Vikings stink. They lost to the Lions last week, an embarrassing loss, the Lions' first win of the season. The Vikings come up small again in a game they must win. The Steelers, they came out last week, and it was pretty much their Super Bowl. They needed to win. They beat the Ravens, division rivalry game. I actually had the Steelers in that game. Shocker, I'm scorching hot. But my point is, Vikings horrible loss, Steelers big win. You kind of have to go that way right now in the NFL. I picked this, I think, Tuesday morning. I was like, I didn't know what the line was yet. And I was like, the Vikings are probably a 2.5-point favorite, and it's an easy slam dunk. That's before I knew Dalvin Cook was playing. I know Adam Thielen is out. I rest my case. The Vikings, I did like it better if it was 2.5. I did see 3. Now I see 3.5. Big Ben on the road. He looks like he's 100. He pulled it out last week. Kirk Cousins is not good in prime time. We will miss Thielen. I think the Vikings take care of business. Minus 3.5 for my 6th in a row pick. I haven't lost. My winning streak started with the Colts playing the Jets on Thursday Night Football. In that game, they had like 80 points. So if you even remember that, that's the last time. That started my win streak. So moving on, a lot of big matchups this week. We talked about the playoff standings last week. Essentially, I'll do it really quickly. Terry is in, probably the 1 seed. Pretty much locked it up. Most points in the league. Myself and Jake, both 9-4. If each of us win a game, we're a lock to be the 2 and 3 seed. Interchangeable, doesn't matter. We would play each other. But either one of us could get knocked completely out if there's a huge swing in points from some of the teams fighting to get in. Or we could get knocked down to the 4th seed as well, depending on what some of these teams do. So Kevin, most likely to claim the 4th spot. ESPN gives him a 60% chance. I'll probably echo that. That's a good number. Brett and Ott still in the thick of it. Otley a little bit of a better situation because he controls his own destiny. If he beats Malone this week and he beats Kevin next week, he's in really good shape. But Brett would have to lose one of those games, so I'm wrong. He will not control his own destiny. But Brett, tough matchup this week against Chris. Kev said he has a tough schedule. I'm not so sure. Or Kev said he does not have a tough schedule. Excuse me. I'm not so sure. Chris's team better than what it looks. So they give Otley 25% chance, Brett 16. I think I disagree. I think both of those teams have an equal chance. Listen, moral of the story, if you're Brett, Kevin, Ott, win. Win this week. We'll talk about it next week. You got to win. And then there's a lot of spoiler matchups this week, and there's also a battle for last place. Last year, Zach came in last, did not accept the punishment. Pearson, the winner, was on record saying, hey, I would do it. He might have to do it. It's a big week this week. If Chris loses, I'm playing Pearson. You know Pearson wants to take me down, so it'll be an interesting showdown. So we'll start with, I always go what I say, easiest, not so important matchups to the most difficult matchups. And we're going to start with what I think is Jake versus my dad. Dean's had a tough season. Mahomes hasn't been what Mahomes should have been. Dean has lost 4 in a row after he was 4-5 and really in the thick of it. And just big-time players not showing up for Dean. For instance, Metcalf. What happened to Seattle? We talked about Mahomes. Kyle Pitts. Dean currently has Kyle Pitts on his bench because he's not lived up to expectations. Forces him to start guys like a banged-up Darrell Henderson, who he started last week and dressed, and he had no carries. Jarvis Landry, who's banged up and in a tough matchup. And Van Jefferson. Guys that you don't really love to start, but you can. So it's been a tough year for Dean. On the other side of the coin, Jake, a model of consistency, has the most well-rounded, consistent team. And what I mean by that is he can throw in 3 running backs off his bench, and they can start for most teams in our league. Devontae Freeman being one of them, Gaskin being another, Melvin Gordon being one, Madison, who has been good for Jake. So those are guys on his bench. Gibson, that trade has kind of worked out for me and Jake. Kittle erupted last week for me, which was great. But Gibson's been very solid for Jake, and probably his second, maybe third best running back, depending on what you think about James Robinson. Leonard Fournette is great. I think what's going to make or break Jake is Lamar Jackson. He's been very subpar as of late, not what Jake wants to see. He's the number 8 quarterback on the season. Here's his point totals the last 4 weeks. Week 9 against Minnesota, 34. Since then, 11, bye week, 7, and 14. Going against myself, who has Tom Brady, going against Terry, who has Josh Allen, you need Lamar to step it up. Jake's going to win this week versus my dad and lock up a playoff spot. I'm very confident in it. Picking Dean this year has not proved to be fruitful. I will take Jake in a matchup of father versus son. Moving on to the next matchup, we have Otley versus Valone. Now, this is a tough matchup. Ott needs to win. He's rolling out the double tight end set with Kelsey and Gronk. They're 2 top 3 tight ends. I don't hate it. He picked up Chuba Hubbard, who has a very tough schedule, and that team sucks. But this week they're playing Atlanta, so he's going to get some points from him this week. Javonte Williams. I think Gordon will be back, but at home against Detroit. And Aaron Rodgers, I own you, he said to the Chicago Bears. He's playing him in Lambeau. He should have a nice game. Flip the script. Valone. Elijah Mitchell, very questionable. Right now he has Devonta Foreman at home against Jacksonville and Saquon Barkley, who has not been good, but the Chargers don't have a very good run defense. It'll be big if Debo plays for Valone. I really do think that. Hopkins is back. Subpar game last week, but Kyler didn't throw for many yards. We got Dak against Washington. Valone's favored in this game. He could very well win this game. I'm not going chalk here. I think Otley keeps it interesting. I think he finds a way to win, and I think next week's going to be big with him and Kevin. I'm taking Otley to beat Valone. Otley might not like that, but that's what I think, and that's what I'm picking. Moving on to the next matchup. Another one you might think is, a 3-10 team playing a team fighting for it. Chris versus Brett. Huge matchup. Chris, Brett said earlier to me, man, Chris's team looks pretty damn good. I don't know why it's 3-10. Chris scored like 160 points against me a few weeks ago. Eckler, Mixon, Chubb, 3 studs. Kyler is back. Jamar Chase has slowed down, but he's still Jamar Chase. Hollywood Brown, a solid number 2. Mooney, a solid number 3. Dalton Schultz, a solid tight end. Why is this team not in the playoffs? Brett, look out. Can Brett compete? Pollard being banged up is good for Brett's Elliott. Allen on the COVID list. You need Keenan Allen to get healthy. If I were you, I would send him a fruit basket, a care package, anything he can do to get better. Stafford at Arizona. Tough matchup, but it should be a shootout. It'll be interesting. I think if Brett can start Sony Michel, which is very questionable right now, It's going to be a big help to him. Brett, in a game that he must win, is favored to lose by 12. I think Chris is going to blow him out of the water this week. I think that Chris ends Brett's playoff hopes this week. I think if Brett loses, can he still make it in? I don't think so, because they're playing each other. Those other guys are playing each other next week. So, Brett, you could totally win this game, but I'm taking Chris to display spoiler here in Week 14. Moving on to the next matchup, the matchup of the week for sure. Terry versus Kevin, two teams that may play again. I foreshadowed it. If Terry's the 1 seed and Kevin's the 4 seed, they may play again. Kevin's already taken names, taken numbers. He said, I want Terry in Week 16. His team has bad matchups. Bring it on. Well, Kev, you're only going to get that opportunity if you make the playoffs, and you can start this week. I know you're rooting against Brett, probably 1A, but 1B is you beating Terry. Terry's team is very solid. He does not have Jonathan Taylor this week. Terry has the best mixture. I said it, Jake's team was the most consistent. Terry's team has the most best mixture of firepower and consistency. What do I mean by that? Deontay Johnson, very high floor, consistent. Cordero Patterson, very high floor, consistent. Tyreek Hill can explode. CeeDee Lamb can explode. Mark Andrews, great tight end. Josh Allen, sky's the limit for him. So it's going to be tough to beat Terry in the playoffs, but you can have the best team and lose. It's happened before. It's happened to me. One bad week can change a lot. Kevin, Justin Herbert's been phenomenal. He gets his running backs back this week. Aaron Jones probably fully healthy. Be interesting to see what they do with Dillon with the split. You got Jefferson with no Thielen. He should have a nice week. Renfro has been great. I heard he's like the wide receiver 9 since Ruggs is gone. He's been phenomenal. Mike Evans, always solid. Knox will have a bounce back week. It's a really tough game for me to pick. Terry just seems to win. Kev's on a 5-game or 4-game? We're going to check. Kev's on a 4-game win streak. Terry's on a 6-game win streak. Something has to break here. I am going to pick Kevin. I think Kevin's going to win. This game can go either way. It's my coin flip of the week. Kevin over Terry this week. But I said Otley's going to win, so next week's going to matter. We'll see. Myself versus Pearson. I always save myself for last. Pearson, terrible season, tough season. I feel for him. He's stayed in it all year. He's still making pickups. He's used every single last dollar of his fab. He can't take it with him the next season, so I appreciate that. This week, his team, better than it had been. He's been starting Rex Burkhead. He gets Kamara back against the Jets and Clyde in a good matchup against Vegas. So he does have good running backs. His receiver's still a little iffy. Cooper is healthy. Beckham's been playing well. Elijah Moore banged up. He's been good. And Gage has been good. So Pearson's fielding a very strong team against me this week. I have some tough matchups. Brady against Buffalo. I still can't find a running back. I'm going to maybe shuffle in one of these guys from San Francisco. Maybe play Carlos Hyde if James Robinson's out. But what you saw with my team last week, and this is what I can hang my hat on. I started Boston Scott. He got 0 points. I don't think he played a freaking snap. I started Mark Ingram. He got 2.5 points. I had Christian Kirk get me 0.5 points. My defense got less than 5 points. And I scored like 140 points. Because George Kittle erupted, Brady erupted, Godwin had 15 catches. That's without Godwin even having a touchdown. And Cooper Kupp had his 100 and a touch. If those 4 guys can explode at any given week, and I do get some supplementary help from some of these other pieces, I'm a team to look out for in the playoffs. My team is not as good as Terry's. It's not as good as Jake's. It might not even be as good as Kevin's. But I have firepower if I can connect. So I'm hanging my hat on that. And I heard that Derrick Henry might come back early. The good thing about that is I don't have a decision to make. If he's in, if he's limited, if the guy gets 1 carry, he's better than what I have. So that is interesting. Look out for that in a couple weeks. I'm picking myself over Pearson. Picking Pearson to win has not been a fruitful effort either. And I think I'm going to take care of business. If I don't, it's not catastrophic for me, but it'll be nice to win. Guys, next week we'll really talk intense playoff scenarios. Good week. I almost forgot to give you my other pick. And I know you're waiting on it. It's Bills +3. I like the Bucs at home this year. They've been good. Buffalo has to win this game. They might win outright. I think they cover. Take Buffalo +3. Kamish out.